computer. Okay, so yeah, just you know, navigating maps and roads, you need to know parallel and perpendicular line, real life activity, okay? And so the Desmos activity, you're going to like make these lines parallel. They're not parallel right now. I'm gonna drag them and make them parallel. That's almost parallel, but not quite. I want to check the slope over here. See, this slope is 2. So what would the slope of the red line need to be? The slope of the black line is 2. What would the slope of the red line need to be parallel? And so on and so forth, okay? And so this Desmos activity is really good. I really like it. You're gonna get to do it before the end of class today for 10 points credit, okay? So that's kind of what it looks like. Let me, okay, but before we do that, I'm gonna do today's lesson, which I made a Jamboard for. So go ahead and write on your paper. You're gonna submit these notes for credit, right? So parallel and perpendicular lines. Let me start my annotation tool, change the color because I don't like to write in red that often. Okay, parallel and perpendicular lines, 313. So if you haven't, go ahead and write that on your paper. That is the title of these notes. Oh, you know what? There's something on angles that we need to do in the notes that I just remembered. So you want to be writing that on your notes, parallel and perpendicular lines, 313. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line described. So I want to write a line that goes through negative 5, 5. So I don't know, negative 5, 5 is somewhere over here in the third quadrant, right? It goes through negative 5, 5, and is parallel to the line that has this equation 1/3 x plus 5. So this line goes through like 5 up here, and it goes up 1 over 3, goes like this, right? So I'm looking for a line that passes through it, that passes through this point, negative 5, 5, and is parallel to that line up there, okay? And what does parallel mean, guys? What does parallel mean? When two lines, what? Two, sorry, lines that don't intersect, right? That never intersect, okay? So what do we know about two lines, the slopes of two lines that never intersect? They have the same slope. If two lines are parallel, they're gonna have the same slope. So this line right here, I know the equation of this line, right? So I know the equation of this line is, sorry, I gotta get my pen back. So hard for me to go back and forth on here. I know the equation of this line is y equals, I wanted to change my color, y equals 1/3 x plus 5, right? So this line is 1/3 x plus 5. So go ahead and write this down if you haven't. It says 9. You can write 1 or, I don't know, 1 or 9, I don't care. It's really number, I'll change it to number 1. So it's going through the point, negative 5, 5, negative 5, negative 5, which we graphed right here. And it's parallel to it, and it's the equation of our line is y equals 1/3 x plus 5. Okay, so that's the equation of that line, and we want to find the equation of this line that's parallel to that line. Well, if it's parallel, it means it has the same slope, right? So what is the slope of this line right here? What is the slope of that line, guys? Feel free to unmute yourselves or type in the chat. What's the slope of this line right here? Give you guys a second so you can wake up a little bit. Nobody? No takers? Oh, I got one in the chat. Yay, somebody's awake. Okay, so the slope of this line is 1/3, right? It's the number in front of the x. And remember, the slope does not include the x. It's the number in front of the x. So the slope of this line is 1/3. Okay, so that tells me the slope of the line we're looking for also has a slope of 1/3. Okay, so let's write an equation of this line. Y equals mx plus b, right? That is our slope-intercept general form of our equation. Y equals mx plus b. We know the m. The m is going to be 1/3. What we don't know is the b value. Okay, we don't know this and we need to find it. So to find the b, do we know an x and do we know a y? Do we know a xy? Absolutely, it's right here. This is your x and this is your y. So let's plug these into the equation. I'm going to plug in the y first is -5. -5 equals the slope, which is 1/3, times the x value, which is -5. Oh, this is going to be an ugly fraction, but okay. Hopefully the next one's not an ugly fraction, but this one's going to be an ugly fraction, but that's okay. It'll show you how to do fractions. Plus b, we're looking for b, right? This is what we don't know that we're looking for. We know x, we know y, we know m. So let's solve for b. This is your b value here, right? We're looking for our, like, what's the y-intercept? Where does this line cross the y? It looks like it's going to be a negative number. I drew it kind of accurately. So is it -1? Is it -2? Is it -3? Is it -2.5? I think it's going to be a fraction because this guy right here is an ugly fraction. So let me throw a 1 underneath here. How do we multiply fractions? We just multiply straight across, okay? So we're gonna get, this is -5/3, okay? No need to be afraid of the fraction. -5/3 plus b, I multiplied straight across. +1 times -5 is -5, 3 times 1 is 3, plus b equals -5, okay? Okay, oops, sorry. Need to move this thing out of my way. All right, so now I need to get rid of the, I need to solve for b, so I need to get the -5/3 to the other side. So let me change colors here. Let's go ahead and add 5/3 then. Opposite of -5/3 is add 5/3. Okay, how do you add 5/3 to -5? You need a common denominator, right? So when you add fractions, you need a common denominator. So to make this a common denominator, I'm going to multiply by 3/3, right? To make this into thirds like that one is. Okay, so when I multiply by 3/3, I'm going to get -15/3. That's the same thing as -5, right? -15/3 plus 5/3 equals b, right? Well, what is -15/3 plus 5/3? Well, the thirds is going to stay the same. Let's do it over here. And -15 plus 5, that is going to be -10, -10/3. So b is -10/3. That's our b value. So we found b, yay. So now we can write in our equation our y equals mx plus b. So my y, I'm going to use this, right, equals mx plus b. I know the slope is 1/3, so it's going to be 1/3 x, and I know that my b is -10/3, and we're going to leave it like this as a improper fraction. If you want to change this, this would be -3 1/3, right? So that, where does this pass at? 1, 2, 3, here's 4, so it's between -3 and -4 right here is where that passes through. That's your y-intercept, right? Your y-intercept is -3 1/3. So this is the equation of the line that is parallel to this line, right? They have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. That's another thing. Parallel lines have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. I'm going to put a text box here too. Parallel lines have same slope, but different y-intercepts. Okay, and we should know that from last year or the year before. So parallel lines have the same slope. They never intersect. They go the same direction. They never intersect. And they have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. So the y-intercept of this line is -3 1/3, and the y-intercept of this line up here is 5. Okay, so that is how you find an equation of a line. You know it passes through a certain point and it's parallel to this line. So we're going to do another example, number 10 right here. So let me erase. I'm going to have to erase at least some of this work. So let me erase this. Okay, I kind of want to erase this stuff too. Yeah, I'm going to erase everything just so it doesn't get sloppy, okay? All right, so this is our line. So go ahead and write the problem down. It says number 10. I'm going to make it number 2. right? So number 2 passes through the point -4, 1, and is parallel to y equals -3/2 x minus 1. Okay, so this is the point it passes through. It passes through, this is my x and my y, -4, 1. If I want to do a little graph to help me, let's say -4 is over here, 1 is approximately right there. So the point is right there. And it's parallel to this line that goes down 1 and starts at -1 and goes down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. So like right there. So it goes like this. Ooh, it's really close to this line. Okay, so I'm looking for this line that like is parallel to it, going through that point, -4, 1. Okay, so what do I know? These two lines are going to have the same what? The same slope. So what is the slope of this line? What number in this equation tells me the slope of the line? Okay, oh, somebody typed in the chat. Yay, I got a chat message. Good, -3/2. 2 of you put that in the chat. Thank you. Okay, that tells me you're paying attention. That makes me, that encourages me very much. Okay, so that's the slope. So really, this tells me, hey, the slope is -3/2. What that's telling me is, hey, I know half of the equation of the line already. The equation of the line that I'm looking for is y equals -3/2 x plus what I don't know is the b value. That's what we have to find, right? That's what I don't know. So I should have wrote that over here. Let me write that over here. Y equals -3/2 x plus b. So my job is to find b, right? You have two things you need to find. You need to find m and you need to find b. Find m, find b. We found m already. It's right there. Now we need to find b. So to find b, I need to plug in my x and my y, which is right here. But we're going to start with the y, right? So my y value is 1. 1 equals -3/2 times my x value. My x value happens to be -4. Since this is a fraction, let's make that a fraction by putting a 1 underneath it, okay? Plus b. Our job is to find b, right? This is what we're looking for. So we need to multiply this and then bring it over here to solve for b. Well, again, you multiply straight across. I'm going to change my color here. I multiply straight across. -3 times -4 is +12. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus b equals 1. Well, 12 divided by 2, that goes in evenly. That's a whole number. You always want to reduce your fractions when you can. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 6 plus b equals 1. So this one came out a lot nicer, no fraction, right? So I just need to minus the 6 from both sides to find what b is. B is going to equal 1 minus 6, which is -5. So that tells me, and it kind of looks like it's, oh yeah, this number right here is -5, right? So we found the y-intercept, which is 0, -5. Okay, so we know the slope of this line, and we found the y-intercept. So now we know the equation. We just got to plug it back into my y equals, plug it back into this, my y equals mx plus b, and now I plug in my b because I found b to be -5. So the equation of this line is y equals -3/2 x minus 5. Okay, that is going to be parallel to this line. They have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. So this is a negative slope and this is a negative slope. So they're both, if one is negative, they're both going to be negative, right? If one is positive, then they're both going to be positive for the slopes. Okay, so that was the second example. Any questions on any of that? How to find parallel lines? If they give you a point that's parallel to the line and they give you the equation of a line that's parallel to it. Okay, and I'm going to post this video probably later, or might not, I don't know, we'll see. Next example, I need to clear my screen here and then go to the next slide. Perpendicular lines. Okay, so here's an example of two perpendicular lines. What does perpendicular mean? They're not quite perpendicular, but they're supposed to be. Okay, who knows what perpendicular means? Somebody unmute yourself or type it in the chat. Different from parallel, right? What does perpendicular mean? Go ahead and write that word, perpendicular lines. Two lines that cross at what angle? This red and this purple line are two perpendicular lines. Two lines that cross at a, ooh, there's somebody in the chat. 90-degree angle, right angle. Good job. Both of you who put in the chat, it crosses at a 90-degree angle or a right angle. Okay, that's what perpendicular means. So I'm going to have to delete this or make this smaller. Here, I'll make it much smaller. It won't completely go away. Okay, so last time we did parallel lines. This time we're doing perpendicular lines. All right, so my point that I know is -1, -4. So let's go ahead and copy. This is number 13. This is number 3 for us. Let's copy it down. It goes through the point, -1, -4. And this is the line that is perpendicular to, not parallel. So perpendicular, we need to write down what perpendicular means. So let's do that too. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines, I keep writing loans. Lines are two lines that cross at or intersect at a right angle, and which means comma 90 degrees. I don't know how to put the degree symbol in typing, so I'll just write 90 degrees. Two lines that cross at a 90-degree angle. 90-degree angles are super important. Yeah, sorry. Super important because we use them for building all the time, right? Everything has to be square. We call it square. When you look at construction, you try to build something, it says it's got to be square because that's sturdy, right? So two lines that cross at a right angle, 90 degrees. Okay, so our line is going through -1, -4. Well, where is -1, -4? I need to erase this. Okay. Let's start drawing. And it's going through the line. I forgot to write. It is going through the line y equals 1, not going through the line, it's perpendicular to this line, 1/3 x minus 5. Okay, so if I do a little sketch, you don't have to do sketches, but I like to show you what's going on. That's why I like to do sketches. So -1, -4 is down here. So that is the point that we know, okay, our line has to go through this point. But if we want it to be perpendicular to this line. Well, here's -4, here's -5. It's going through -5. And it's going up 1/3, right? Or down 1/3. So the line that it's perpendicular to is like this, right? Well, if it's going to be perpendicular, it's going to cross at a 90-degree angle. It's going to be like this, okay? What is the relationship between this slope and this slope? Okay, there's a relationship between perpendicular line slopes, and they're not going to be the same, right? Because two lines that are parallel have the same slope because they're going the same direction. But look, this slope is what? This slope is 1/3, right? It's going up 1/3. This slope is going to be negative for 1. So if two lines are perpendicular, one is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. And so I'm going to put, you know what they are? They're called opposite reciprocals. So I'm going to write that down. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite, sorry, I can't never type in the morning. Opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, we're going to write that down. Perpendicular lines have opposite, that's opposite, sorry, opposite reciprocal slopes. I really can't spell. I'm usually a good speller. Okay, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite reciprocal means, if you remember reciprocal, it means I'm going to flip over this, this this fraction. Sorry, I need to get my drawing tool. Okay, I need to flip over this fraction. So if I flip over that fraction, that's 3/1. And then you also need to multiply it by -1. So it'd be -3/1. So the slope of the line that we're looking for is the opposite reciprocal. Flip it over, flip over the fraction and multiply by -1, because one of them's got to be negative, one of them's got to be positive. Whenever they're perpendicular, right? One's going to be negative, one's going to be positive. So you multiply by -1. You multiply the other line by -1. So this is our slope. We found our y equals mx plus b. In this, we know m now, right? We could just look at this equation. The slope is -3. Okay, -3/1 is just -3. So our equation is y equals -3x plus b. But we don't know what b is, right? There's two things you need to do. You need to find m and b. First you find m, then you find b. Okay, so we need to solve for b. So we do the exact same thing. We plug in x and y into the equation and solve for b. Well, x and y are right here. Here's x, here's y. Who just came in the room? You just came in the room, you need to type your name in the chat. Okay, so if I plug in x and y, we're gonna start with y, right? -4. So let me change colors here. So I'm gonna put -4 equals, and that's my y, -3 times my x, which is -1 here. X is -1 plus b, okay? Okay, so how do we do this? We're just gonna multiply these two first. Order of operations, -3 times -1 is +3 plus b equals -4. Last step to solve for b, bring the 3 to the other side, -3. Right, this is +3, so I want a -3. So b equals -7. So we found the b value. We found m and now we found b, right? We found m, now we found b. So I just need to plug this -7 back into my equation back here, and that is the equation of this perpendicular line that's perpendicular to that one. So the equation is going to be y equals -3x minus 7. That is the equation of the line that is perpendicular to this line and crosses through specifically this point, -1, 4. Crosses through that point right there, -1, 4. Okay, so I'm giving you a couple minutes. A couple people wrote in the chat. They said I was erasing stuff too fast, so write it down, please. Okay, I won't erase it then. I'll move on to the next one and I won't erase it. All right, so here's number 16, which we're gonna make this is number 4 for us. It passes through the point through -1, 2, and it's perpendicular to, not parallel. You have to read, does it say perpendicular or parallel? This one says perpendicular. Perpendicular to y equals -1/2 x minus 2, okay? So let's determine what our slope is and what our b is. We want to find the slope and the b. So let me just graph. I always like to graph. And this was the answer. Yeah, it matched that one. That's good. This is going to be our other answer. So let's do a little graph. -1, 2. -1, 2 is right here. -1, +2. So our line is going through that point, right? -1, 2. And we want it to be perpendicular to this line that passes through -2, right here, -2, and goes down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, or up 1 over 2 if I want to go this way, up 1 over 2. So my line that it's perpendicular to looks like this, okay? So I don't want to do a parallel line. This time I want to do a perpendicular line. So if I'm going down 1 over 2, can't I go up 2 over 1? And you know, that'll be a perpendicular line, but I need, so up 2 over 1. So maybe like this. Okay, that's going to give me a 90-degree angle. So what is the equation of that line? I need to find what's the equation of this line that's going through -1, 2. Okay, and what's the slope of that line? And what's the y-intercept? The y-intercept looks like it's 3, looks like it might be 4, right? But I don't know. Let's see. We have to do the algebra to find out. So this is my x. This is my y. They told me the x and the y. And they told me basically the slope. It's not going to be -1/2. What is the opposite reciprocal of -1/2, you guys? What is the slope going to be? Opposite reciprocal. What do we have to do to this? You have to flip it over and multiply by -1. Well, if I multiply a negative times a negative, it's going to be positive. So the slope is going to be 2/1, which is just 2. Okay, so that's the slope that I'm going to plug into y equals mx plus b. Okay, I'm going to plug in 2 into y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in the 2 right there. And then I need to plug in the x and the y. And that's going to come from these 2 points right here. Well, first you plug in the y. Start with the 2, right? That goes in there. So 2 equals, our slope is also 2. And our x is not going to be 2. Our x is -1 plus b. Now we are on our way to finding the b. Okay, give you a second to copy that down. Okay, now we multiply. All right, 2 times -1 is -2 plus b equals 2. Now I need to solve for b, so I need to get rid of this +2, this -2, and I need to add 2 to both sides. And hopefully I'm going to get part of this answer right here. I'm going to get b equals 4. Yay, that's what's right here, so that's good. So I know the b and I know the m, right? The m is 2, the b is 4. So now I can plug it into my y equals mx plus b. Y equals 2x plus 4 is the answer. That's the equation. And remember I said I thought it was 4 because my graph, I did it on graph paper and it came up at 4. So yeah, this line is perpendicular to that line. They cross at a 90-degree angle, right? And the equation going through -1, 2, and I just did it by graphing. You can do it by graphing, but we want you to do it by algebra. Okay, this is the work you have to show on your paper. Okay, so you got to show this work on your paper. So you don't have a lot of problems on your homework to do this for. So it's a little bit of work. It's not that difficult work. You definitely need to try it. And I actually attached more problems on the worksheet that I attached to the classwork. So if you want more practice, you can certainly do the other 4 problems that I didn't do that I attached on the classwork. Okay, is it okay for me to erase this now? I've been like talking and stalling so that you guys have time to copy this down. If not, take a screenshot real quick. You know, you can always take a screenshot or take a picture with your camera and continue copying it down. All right, so what I was talking about here is, I need to do a new share. Oh no, I could do that. I could just go to your classwork. If I do have to erase this though. If I go to your classroom and in your classwork, today's 22, right? That's the homework. Here's the classwork. So the problems that we just did, we did number 9, 10, and 13, and 16, right? We did 9, 10, 13, and 16. So we didn't do 11, 12, 14, and 15. So if you want to do those just for extra practice, they're right there. And the answers are in red right there, right? I didn't assign those, but you know, if you want extra practice. But for your homework, you're going to you're going to do the worksheet that's attached. That's just like what we did. So make sure you read, does it say parallel or does it say perpendicular? These first 4 say parallel. These last 4 say perpendicular. Here you have, these are really easy. You just have to find the slope of the parallel line. You don't have to find the whole line, just the slope. And that's, so there's not a lot of work to show on this. Just show how you like, do you use the same slope or do you flip it over, right? So here's parallel, here's perpendicular. So there we go for that. Okay, so let me stop recording this real quick.